Hey, John here. So I got a question today about the fingering of the third pentatonic position. And I've got this question a lot from private students and emails and all kinds of stuff. So I thought I would just address it here. And I also remember when I was learning these shapes way back in the day that the third one in particular was quite weird in comparison to the other ones. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. So if we do this in A minor, we start with the first position here, and we have a 4-fret range, so we can use one finger per fret. And then when we go up to the second position, you can do the same thing because it's only a 4-fret range. So, and of course, when you play this in a musical situation, you don't need to stick to any one fingering because it's gonna depend on where you're going and where you're coming from, right? But as far as just practicing the scale and being able to visualize it, it's helpful to see it as these 4-fret positionings, because then you know that anytime you have a note on, let's say in this case, the 8th fret is going to be covered by the second finger, and then the 10th fret will be the pinky, and so on. So it becomes quite straightforward to play the position. But when we come to the third position, this doesn't work anymore. And the reason for that is that it covers 5 frets. So it's a 5-fret span. And I'm going to show you what I mean here. So it's all good here on the 10th fret. We got 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12 on the first 3 strings. So that's, very easy to remember. But when we come to the G string, we need to go to the 9th fret and then the 12th fret, which is fine if you have a 4-fret, one finger per fret positioning this far, right? Because then you can just go 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 4. But now you need to go to the 10th fret, which is still fine with our one finger per fret positioning. But here's where we get into trouble, because we have the 13th fret here on the B string. So 9 to 13, that's a 5-fret span, and unless you use your thumb, you're gonna be one finger short. And it's not the end of the world, but I remember this position being a bit tricky, especially when playing different sequences and stuff like that. And clearly I'm not alone, because I've got a lot of questions about this, like I said in the beginning of the video. So my solution then is to do this. Instead of going and having to do a shift here, it kind of feels like you're cutting you're cutting the position up, basically, because you're fine here and then you have to shift up, and same thing when you go back. So like I said, when you do sequences, it can feel kind of awkward, right? So my solution then was to use the 3rd finger as an anchor point. And when I say an anchor point here, I don't mean that you should, hold it down in any way. I just mean that the 3rd finger will always be playing every note that's on the 12th fret in this key, right? So we're gonna go 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. And no, the only thing here is that you get a slight stretch instead, but that's fine. Unless you have super tiny hands, that shouldn't be a problem. And then 3 again, and then we have... So basically, the second note on each string here will be the 3rd finger on the 12th fret, except for the B string, because then you're gonna play the pinky here on the 13th fret instead. But if you look at this now you can really feel secure here in the position when you have that 3rd finger as an anchor. So give that a try and see if that helps you out with this position. And like I said, it's not about having a strict fingering all the time, but when I'm practicing scales, I try to find the most logical fingering if I had a perfectly developed left hand, right? So I really try to avoid playing what's the most comfortable initially. And now when I've been playing so long and use that approach, I have nothing is perfect, but I have a very evenly developed left hand because of that very reason, because I haven't shied away of using certain finger combinations. But like I said, the problem with this position is not that, it's more that it can be harder to visualize it initially, especially when you play sequences. And a great way to work on this, and this is a thing that you can use for any shape you're learning, is to just play the shape in half steps all over the neck. So you start as low as you can go. It's going to be out of range of the camera here. So basically this note's going to be the lowest available note, right? So I just slide down here. So like this. So we're starting here in C sharp minor, pentatonic. And then I just go up like this. Then I shift up a half step. So this is a great exercise. And so on, all up the fretboard and back. And of course you can do different sequences as well. And so on. And the reason why this is such a good exercise is that when you're in a single key, like A minor like we did here, or E minor, or C sharp minor, whatever, you can start relating a certain fingering with the positioning of the dots, right? So in this case, for example, you can see the 12th fret as a sort of a visual anchor point as well, which is fine. You shouldn't not do that when you're actually playing in a certain key. But it can also take you longer to actually see the shape itself, which will make it harder to move it around to different keys. So one of the best things I've found is to just move it in half steps, because our brain is going to try to find the easiest way to visualize something, right? Because our brains are inherently quite lazy, at least mine is. So you want to find the easiest way to do something. And when you move things in half steps, it's not the easiest way to do it by looking at the dots, because they keep changing. So now your brain has to find the pattern in relationship to itself, right? So you start seeing like, oh, okay, so I have this, you know, the third finger here in this case is anchoring, and however your brain is starting to see this pattern, but that's what you start to develop much faster, because you kind of have to. So if you have any type of shapes you have trouble with, can be this one, can be anything else, can be an arpeggio or whatever, try this approach where you go up in half steps really slowly and just, you know, get a feel for it. And I promise you, if you do that a few times up and down the fretboard, you will see whatever shape you worked on so much better. And it's also great for your technique to do this. So just pick a tempo where you can do it perfectly and you don't feel stressed out. You want a tempo where you can play everything evenly and everything sounds good. So give it a try and see you in the next one. Back in the day, I used to have real issues with fast alternate picking when it came to 2 notes per string. I was fine with 3 notes per string, but the 2 notes per string thing was a bit harder to crack. So if you struggle with fast alternate picking as well, and you don't know what to practice or for how long, I've created the perfect solution for you in the form of the Pentatonic Picking Power Book. So in this book, you'll find a daily workout that will not only help your pentatonic picking, but will also upgrade your overall alternate picking technique. So it contains basically the same exercises I used myself to develop my picking abilities, as well as numerous students over the years that I've given the same exercise to with great results. So I know these exercises work as long as you put in the work. So it's not a quick solution or quick fix. It will still take a lot of work, but at least you have a very easy to follow routine. So if you're up for a big alternate picking upgrade in 2024, I cannot think of a better start.